The Korean Peninsula is divided between two independent states. South Korea, enjoying Western-style democracy and apparently has a strong flourishing economy and sizable military to defend against the arch-rival neighbour. North Korea is known to be a state run by the Kim Dynasty dictatorship. It's one of the most repressed and militarized states in the world. Korean People's Army, or KPA, acts as the backbone of the state apparatus, government and society. KPA is believed to have 1.3 million active soldiers. In addition, there are 3.8 million strong paramilitary forces and about 200,000 reserve soldiers. Its massive military parades show off impressive disciplined combat machinery consisting of men and women and weaponry. However, revelations from behind the Hermit Kingdom's Iron Curtain paint quite a gloomy and disturbing picture. KPA soldiers are said to live in squalor and even undergo starvation. Let's share with you the horrible things which North Korean soldiers have to undergo. But before we get started, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe and click the notification bell for more such amazing content. Squalid living conditions. Administration and arranging comfortable living for a military of over 1 million is not an easy task. Accordingly, the poor economy of North Korea is not capable of providing a conducive environment to the soldiers of the Korean People's Army. About 20 soldiers share a congested room of small concrete barracks spread all over the country. For storing personal belongings and uniforms, each soldier is provided with a small set of drawers. They sleep on bunk beds having hard mattresses made of cheap rice chaff, which soaks up all the sweat, and the rooms become full of a foul odour. In some barracks, running water is not available, and soldiers wash outside with water drawn from wells or hoses. They hardly get warm water in even cold winter, and no cooling arrangements are provided during the summers. Soldiers usually live in such conditions for an initial 8 years. Poorly ventilated rooms lead to the quick spread of diseases among soldiers. The outbreak of SARS in the early 2000s is believed to have caused numerous deaths in the military. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic has been no less devastating. Starving soldiers. North Korea has limited trade with other nations, therefore there are minimal opportunities to import food. Resultantly, the country has to depend on its own food production. In the past, poor harvests have led to the famine in which millions perished. In such situations, other states offered food aid, but North Korean authorities did not agree to allow foreign aid workers across its borders. The military has not been an exception in this regard. Soldiers are fed only the basic cheap food available locally, such as rice, corn and cabbage. They depend on seasonal harvests, potatoes in June and corn in August. The standard weight for each meal is to be 200 to 300 grams, but several reports have indicated that it hardly weighs 140 grams. Insufficient food leads to malnutrition and weight loss amongst most of the soldiers within 6 months. In 2015, a secret recording showed soldiers dangerously weak and exhausted. The precarious food situation has even forced senior military leadership to encourage the soldiers to steal food and livestock for their units. When soldiers become too malnourished, they're granted home leave so their families can feed them and return once they've become healthy. This terrible cycle continues until the retirement of a soldier. Bean leave. In May 2021, Korean Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un issued a direct order which indicated that military soldiers were suffering from extreme malnutrition, and he directed that each soldier must be given at least one bean-based meal like soybeans or tofu daily. Commanders failing to implement this order were to be punished mercilessly. Having no other means for food supply, the Korean military's logistics department acted upon a novel idea. Soldiers coming from prosperous families were sent on 10 to 14 days leave to their homes, and on return everyone was bound to bring at least 300 kilograms of beans. In case they could not manage to get beans, they could bring corn or rice. It was an horrendous proposition for most of the soldiers as they come from rural backgrounds. They were to choose an option between either depriving their families of food or seeing their units starving. Brainwashed from birth. It's interesting to know how Kim has managed to enroll this many people into his army despite dismal living and economic conditions. The sole reason is brainwashing of the kids. Children as young as 4 years old are indoctrinated into the ruling Workers' Party's militaristic ideologies. Their nurseries are decorated with cartoon soldiers carrying different weapons. Their books also illustrate strong military iconography. Propaganda cartoons containing characters equipped with loaded guns fighting and destroying their enemies are also shown. Children, even toddlers, are dressed in impressive military uniforms. A most disturbing aspect relates to the North Korean equivalent of Boy Scouts, known as Korean Children's Union, who sing songs displaying loyalty to Kim. Translation of one such lyric goes, 3 million Boy Scouts will be guns and bombs. We will be guns and bombs for the general. In other words, they promise to lay down their lives for Kim Jong-un. They have no choice. North Korean Supreme Leader has enforced conscription in the country. Every 17-year-old boy and girl has to register for military service. Astonishingly, sons and daughters of several political party members and elites are given exemption. Kim Jong-un is commander of the entire military, but he never served in it in any branch. During the reign of his grandfather Kim Il-sung, soldiers used to join the military voluntarily. However, in the regime of Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il, the economy markedly declined, leading to a reduction in military rewards. So he started relying heavily on conscription. Military service usually lasted 13 years, but the directive issued in January 2021 has reduced it to 8 years for males, whereas between 5 to 8 years for females. In 2012, the minimum height for joining the military by men was reduced from 145 centimeters to 142 centimeters. Second-rate training. On joining KPA, soldiers undergo basic training encompassing the fundamentals of fighting for the initial 6 months. Keeping in mind the heavy cost of vehicles, fuel and ammunition, training is predominantly physical drills focused on repetition and memorization. It also includes extensive night training. As per a report, daily routine training goes from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. and only 3 hours as free time. They're also expected to grow crops and raise livestock to meet the military's food requirements. Subsequently, they move on to special training in line with their posting to the allocated division. Soldiers are also selected to show their skills in front of the camera, which includes smashing bricks with bare fists and even taking blows to their abdomens. They usually spend 6 months preparing for a single parade that involves synchronization of foot movements. Some defectors pointed out that 60% of training is ideological, creating a sacrificial mentality to protect the Kim family at the peril of their own life. All day, every day. In addition to tough training, leave and passes are rare for North Korean soldiers and are strictly controlled by senior members. They are permitted 2 weeks leave just once or twice in their entire tenure of service. Generally, they are granted leave for up to 10 days only. While on duty but not undergoing training, soldiers are deployed to help farmers in crops or carry out manual labor. In 2016, soldiers were deployed on 2 mega projects, the Tanchon Hydroelectric Power Station and Seppo Tableland project. Female soldiers are also employed for cooking. Soldiers can be assigned any task like acting as traffic wardens or even tour guides. Pitiful pay. An average North Korean earns just 4% of their South Korean neighbors. Official figures indicate that their average earning is $100 per month per individual, but most of the soldiers are believed to get less than that. They're paid in non-cash items like food and daily necessities. In 2021, food shortages worsened and a kilogram of bananas cost $45. Similarly, shampoo cost $200 a bottle. North Korean citizens prefer to use cash instead of depositing savings in banks that are controlled by the government that can refuse the withdrawal of currency. People are not conversant with the payment systems. In 2013, it was reported that senior rank officers were given incentives for maintaining loyalty. 4-star generals were paid $1,200 monthly, whereas 3-star generals got $1,000 and 2-star generals received just $700. Contrarily, in the USA, the starting rate for a general is $16,600 per month. Dishonor is desirable. Dishonorable discharge is the most despised type of discharge from military service all over the world. However, it's considered to be the most desirable option for North Korean soldiers. A soldier dishonorably discharged is automatically expelled from the Workers' Party and cannot become party official even after getting better resources. It's considered to be the ultimate punishment for a North Korean citizen. Reportedly, soldiers have understood that they would be much better off when out of military service being low paid and employed for hard labor. Some of them assist smugglers and traffickers on borders for getting bribes. On making good money, they get themselves dishonorably discharged and lead a comparatively luxurious life. Commanded to cry. During visits by Kim Jong-un to soldiers or while he is witnessing parades, a lot of troops start weeping. It seems that they are moved to tears of joy or awe due to the presence of their supreme leader. Mass mourning sites are also observed at the ceremonies held in remembrance of their previous leader, Kim Jong-il. It may be the result of brainwashing carried out over the years, but it's also pretended to avoid punishments inflicted on soldiers found not displaying true love to the leader. In 2012, after Kim Jong-il's passing, a lot of soldiers who did not participate in mass mournings were sent to hard labor camps for up to 6 months. Therefore, in the presence of Kim Jong-un, soldiers start wailing and clapping as if they are overwhelmed by emotions. It's better to cry on command instead of facing hard labor. They can never leave. You may think why the distressed soldiers of North Korea don't get rid of military service. Well, refusing to perform military duty can lead to heavy punishments, even to death. The only possible option is to leave the country. North Korean Ministry of People's Security doesn't permit its citizens to go abroad except on special assignments to friendly countries like China. But they're not treated as refugees, they're rather handed back to the North Korean government. The only possibility remains crossing over to South Korea through 2.5 miles wide demilitarized zone which is mined. North Korean officials deployed there are well paid in the hope to avoid defection. But incidents continue to take place. Defector Oh Chong-song, a high military official, made a snap decision to cross the demilitarized zone, although he was chased and fired upon 40 times. Luckily, he managed to cross over and was saved by South Korean soldiers. Unbelievable uniforms. North Korean soldiers parading may seem impressive, but actually the conditions of their uniforms are not enviable. A close look at the heeled shoes worn by female soldiers indicate that they've been secured with things like elastic and string. Ordinary soldiers are only issued with a set of summer uniforms once in 2 years, whereas they're provided winter uniforms once in 3 years. Their lighter summer shoes are replaced after every 2 years, whereas winter shoes are given every year. But the quality of shoes is much inferior and may expose them to frostbite. Horrendous healthcare. North Korean citizens are provided healthcare by the government. Similarly, the North Korean military has its own dedicated hospitals. However, defectors have revealed that the condition of these hospitals is dismal as no medicine or equipment is available there. If a medicine is provided, even soldiers are charged for it. Hospitals have cheap disinfectant iodine in abundance. Compared to the tough training and expected injuries, the healthcare system seems to be quite terrifying, and numerous persons resort to natural remedies and herbs for treating illness. In December 2020, a report showed that half of the country's 1st Corps, an infantry unit having 5,000 troops, were sick to the extent that they could not undergo training. Worse for women. Conditions for women in KPA are quite unhealthy, resulting from 6 months of extensive initial training coupled with malnutrition makes them weak to the extent that numerous female soldiers stop menstruating. In some cases it may happen for several years, but it's considered a blessing. Before 2017, instead of sanitary products, most women soldiers were provided only bandages or used cloth. Senior officers are allegedly known to sexually harass their undercommand female soldiers. North Korea claims to take this offense seriously, and a person found guilty is awarded imprisonment for 7 years. Often, senior officers blackmail women by threatening to block their chances of joining the party if they report the incident, so they suffer silently. An unceremonious end. Military persons all over the world are assured that in case of death their families will be taken care of. But in North Korea, if a soldier dies during the performance of active duty, maybe on borders or training, their families get nothing. They're only granted a certificate confirming that the soldier fell in the line of duty out of loyalty to the Workers' Party. They do not get a benefit even worth a single penny. Sadly, this continues to be the fate of the martyrs' families to date. Well, that was heart-wrenching to hear. Do tell us in the comments what you guys think of these terrible things the North Korean soldiers have to suffer. We'll be back soon with another mind-boggling video for you guys. Have a great time until then, and make sure you've subscribed to our channel for more amazing videos.